Together, these two areas represent approximately 93% of the capital improvement plan for SIRIDE, or about $21.8 million over the next 5 years. Vehicle rehabilitation and replacement begins on page 134. And over the next 5 years, SIRIDE plans to replace 20 large buses, including 16 40-foot buses with newer, more efficient models. Sustainability does remain a shared priority for both SIRIDE and Council. As part of that effort, we continue to integrate battery electric buses into our fleet. We currently have 2 in service. We just received 5 more that we expect to have in service in February. And then the CIP includes additional funding for 4 that are programmed approximately every year through FY 30-31, and that would bring our battery electric bus fleet to 11. In FY 26-27, we did receive grant funding that will allow us to replace 4 older 40-foot heavy-duty buses with more efficient models. We also secured grant funding from the Federal Transit Administration and the Ames area MPO to replace 1 40-foot diesel bus with a battery electric bus. Additionally, we have programmed the replacement of 1 SIRIDE support vehicle in 26-27. SIRIDE facility improvements and expansion can be found on page 135. Over the next 5 years, approximately $4 million is programmed for facility-related projects. SIRIDE was awarded a state grant to replace the steam cleaning in-ground hoist system, which is shown here. The project, what it does is it expands capacity by installing 2 new lifts that allow us to lift both 40 and 60-foot vehicles. In 26-27, we have programmed a fueling system upgrade. This project would provide spill-free fueling, allow for faster dispensing, reduce fuel waste, and improve overall environmental performance. The project is dependent on securing grant funding, which we are actively pursuing. And then we do have facility expansion programmed for FY 28-29 through FY 30-31. Funding continues to be shown in the CIP during this period to support planning, design, and construction-related needs as a project moves forward. So we were recently awarded $14.6 million for a federal facility expansion. Those program dollars in the CIP allow us to address any additional needs and allows us to be responsive to any potential funding opportunities that may come. Can't even remember my own name. SIRIDE currently has approximately $3.7 million in reserve for local match, ensuring that we are fully prepared to leverage that federal investment. The next section of the capital improvement plan is bus stop improvements, and that is on page 136. Each year, SIRIDE does allocate funding for amenities such as shelters and benches to enhance the rider experience. We continue to use our automatic passenger counter data to identify areas with the highest demand and the greatest need so that we can prioritize upgrades where we have the greatest impact. Additionally, we do annually budget for small concrete replacement projects to improve accessibility and safety at bus stops. And then shop and office equipment is detailed on page 137. Each year, we do program funding for ongoing replacement of office and computer equipment, as well as specialized shop tools and equipment critical to the maintenance division. One of the planned replacements in 26-27 include our fluid reels, which are shown, some of them are shown here. They have reached the end of their useful life and require upgrading. In FY 26 and 27, we have also programmed the purchase of a 60-inch brake press. So this equipment will allow the maintenance division to fabricate brackets and parts for our older vehicles that the components have essentially become obsolete. So that allows us to extend the vehicle life and reduce downtime. And then another planned replacement for 26-27 is an alignment machine, which will help support proper suspension adjustments, reduce tire wear, and improve overall ride quality for our passengers. Transit technology improvements is on page 138. SciRide will continue to invest in technology that improves system efficiencies, accessibility, and the overall passenger experience. These investments help ensure we can continue to deliver the reliable service that the community does depend on. This includes continuing to upgrade the systems that support our real-time information and our day-to-day service delivery. So one planned replacement is our aging automatic vehicle locating equipment, along with improvements to the tools that riders access for accurate arrival times and service updates. SciRide is also planning on continuing to expand those onboard passenger information displays, which are shown here, to additional buses. Those screens are the ones that provide those upcoming bus announcements, transfer information, and real-time updates. They're especially helpful for new riders as well as passengers with disabilities. The displays support advertising, and they are partially funded through the Federal Transit Administration, helping to reduce the local cost of implementation. That concludes the transit portion of the capital improvement plan. Thank you for all you've done and your time, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thanks, Barb. Questions?
So last year, we introduced the term Doge into our vocabulary and became concerned about the reliability of federal funding. And I have always been concerned about federal funding for SciRide because of the way the formula works. We receive funding at a rate that most larger cities would love to have. And I've always been worried that larger states and metro complexes will move for reconfiguring the funding formulas that would, in essence, move SciRide out of competition for many of the sources of federal funds that we receive. I've always had that feeling, and even with Doge, it was increased. Give us a couple sentences as you think about federal funding going forward. We're relying heavily on federal funding for SciRide. Could you give just a couple thoughts about the stability of that funding?
Sure. I mean, obviously, federal funding is important to transit systems nationwide. It's something that I feel like we monitor closely. Most of SciRide's federal funding comes from long-standing formula programs. So it's formula funding based on service, ridership, and efficiency. Those programs, to be honest, have existed through every administration. They typically are not reduced much, so those formula dollars. Now, discretionary grants, which the CIP is very heavy on discretionary grants, that has changed over time, but we don't assume those dollars in our capital improvement plan until they're actually awarded. So we commit the local match, and then we wait and apply for the grant. So if we weren't to get a discretionary grant, we wouldn't move forward with a capital improvement project. And I think I mentioned last week, I was in Washington, D.C. Last week, and I heard, I think, consistently with what we've been hearing locally. So there's no real indication that core transit funding or that formula dollars are going away. So I don't know if that answered your question.
It does. And you don't think there's any risk of reconfiguring the formula that benefits larger metropolitan areas over a SciRide system?
I wouldn't say there's no risk. I mean, there certainly is talk from the top 20 transit systems of looking at a more formula-based funding. So currently, you get formula dollars, one bucket, you get discretionary grants in another bucket. SciRide has always been very good at getting discretionary grants, which is what pays for that, like the facility expansion, what allows us to get new buses. There is talk about changing that percentage so that more money would go to formula funding and less to discretionary grants. I'm not sure exactly what that would look like for SciRide. I think we would have less opportunities for discretionary grants, but I will tell you that the state of Iowa was just awarded the largest grant has ever been received to the state of Iowa through transportation. Almost, if I remember right, $77 million. We were part of that $14.6 million.
Wow.
So I think what we're seeing right now is there's still support for that. I do think discretionary funding will shift around a bit, though.
Okay, that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
Any other questions? All right. Thank you,
Thank you,
Barb.
everybody.
Thank
Have a
you for
nice
coming.
day.
Thank you.
Let's just take a 5-minute break. All right, we will continue on with culture and recreation programs. Keith, we'll turn it over to you.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. And to start off with, we very much from Parks and Recreation and what we hear from the public always thank the support of City Council and being able to do what we do through CIP and everything else. So thank you for that. They're not here. I didn't bring my bodyguards and everybody else, but there are a lot of people behind the scenes. Obviously, Courtney Court, our Recreation Superintendent, Joshua Thompson, Parks and Facility Superintendent, part of our leadership team, helped put a lot of this information together, and then also managing the projects as well. And I also like to say thanks to all of our staff who help with projects. They sometimes manage projects, but then a lot of our maintenance staff also help with completing some of these projects. So thanks to all of them. And then also Parks and Recreation Commission getting prepared for this. They probably have listened and discussed this at 4 or 5 of their meetings. And at the meeting last week, they did recommend that City Council approve the Parks and Recreation CIP as presented. So just a little plug, a little plug there. So we're going to start off with, and this is a participatory activity. Going to go through. I don't have music. I don't have flashy slides or anything like that. But I'm just going to run through a number of projects that we completed since last January. So if you want to think like you're at the fireworks and you want to give some oohs and ahs and wows and things of that sort, feel free to do so. So I'll just run through these so you can kind of see what we have accomplished.
Ooh.
Very good.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, that looks like the other one.
Yeah.
Oh, cute. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ooh. Ooh.
Where's Brian? Yes, yes.
Ooh. Oh, nice. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Ooh.
You did very well. Thank you for that participation. So we'll get into our CIP, and starts on page 147. There's a lot of projects listed. I'm just going to try to highlight some of them. I'm going to hit every page, but again, just try to give you a little bit more of an overview of some of the things. So exciting one. Is Ontario Park Development. And we're working on getting the master plan put together, but yet with the Gita Winokur money being available, we did not have to use it for the Fitch Family Indoor Aquatic Center, which is a great thing. So we have that money available for this development. So we know that we're going to have to develop on the north end first. So we have, parking, a shelter, maybe a restroom, a path from the parking down to bridge, which we received a $200,000 REAP grant for. And then on the north side of the creek, or on the south side of the creek, then we'll just mow some paths. So we have identified $1.3 million we have in here for what we're calling phase 1. And now the exact location and some of those things might change, but you have a general idea that we're going to start this development. We go to the park system improvements, just a few projects. We have this coming up. This is right along, that should say 13th Street, not 17th Street, so 13th Street, North River Valley. And that's the parking that's been there for a long time. You can see how people park off the grass or worn down some of those things. So we're going to do some new parking with that. And with park system improvements, we have 16 total projects, just about $2.2 million with those. Tom Evans upgrades, and the council has seen the Main Street, that plan that they have. Part of it is doing some upgrades to Tom Evans as well. So this is in for this next year, 26, 27. And then the Main Street also has been putting out for some grants or applying for some grants. So they're thinking they could have $50,000 or so to match with, I think, our 33. And then the last project, just want to mention, we're the Lowhead Dam and the improvements that we've made in partnership with Water Pollution Control. Again, we say the Cottonwood Shelter, it's that area, but we actually in this year, which is 29-30, we do have 3 projects. The Cottonwood Shelter, we're also reposition the parking and then also add a playground equipment there as well. So there'll be 3 projects in that year. So playground equipment improvements, overall we have about 45 playgrounds in the park system.
Wow.
And with those playgrounds, a 20-year lifespan, roughly. Now, some of them go a little bit longer, some of them go a little bit shorter, depending on how much use they get. This year, in the 5-year plan, there's 13 replacements in the plan. But really, what we wind up doing is we actually are going out. Our plan goes out to, I think, 2045. Right now, and what we do is we generally have about 2 to 3 playgrounds that we're replacing, every year. The one in this picture is more memorial. We have $300,000 in there. We have a 2 to 5 playground. We also have that's for 2 to 5-year-olds, and then we also have a playground for 5 to 12-year-olds. What we want to do is kind of combine those, use the topography out there, and actually have some playground equipment on top of a hill. Some of it down at the bottom, maybe have a slide to get from one to the next, maybe some type of a climbing apparatus to get from down below up top. So we're always trying to diversify and do things differently with the playground equipment. Fitch Family Indoor Aquatic Center, not going to go into what's going on right now because you guys get updates on that every month. But we are looking to add solar in 26, 27. In the solar right now would just go on top of the natatorium roof. You can see there's absolutely nothing, up there right now. It's completely open. And then right now with what we're looking at doing is with that solar, we would reap the benefits of it. So you can see how many kilowatt hours it's estimated to produce. And what it'll do is help us with operations. And right now they're estimating about $23,000 of savings. In this project too, I think we have about $115,000 in Ames electric rebates that we're anticipating to get.
And you mean annual savings?
Annual savings, yes. Yep. And then ADA transition plan, number of different things. Just pointing out this project on the left. This is down at the community center, and those were not accessible. There used to be about a 6-inch lip, so you couldn't get right up to the drinking fountain. We didn't have bottle fillers, and actually we were going to use ADA money on this, but then Dawn McDonald, we had a memorial from her, over $10,000, and we were able to do this work, add one on the north end and also add on the south end. Dawn McDonald, very tennis. Well, she started dabbling with pickleball a little bit, but badminton and things. Longtime ISU professor, really nice lady. So that's what the plaque above there is, just referencing her. And then the one on the right is an ADA lift that we need to replace at Furman. We've had the one out there has been there ever since we started, so 15 years time to replace it. So we move on to Homewood Golf Course, and we'll talk more about Homewood when we talk about budget in February, but we are going to be adding some additional parking. We have this in for this next year, 26, 27, and I should have brought my pointer. We'll see. This is maybe not working, but what we're looking at doing is actually moving or adding some hard surface to the north where that main parking is, adding some to the north, actually adding some to the south. So we'll be able to, hopefully what we'll be able to do is add 2 rows of parking in there. And then also where you see the 4 cars parked on the right side of the practice green, maybe even taking some of that extra grass and adding some parking up there. And with this one, really it's a need, because with clubhouse rental and the use that we're getting out at Homewood, when we have both things going on at the same time, we just do not have enough parking. So, and this is being funded out of the Homewood operational fund balance. And even with this $300,000, it's still estimated that that fund balance at the end of 26, 27 will still be over $800,000. So that's a good success story. Downtown Plaza, same thing, adding solar to the building. Obviously not as impactful as Fitch, but still for the size of the building, there are savings for operations. We move up to Ada Hayden, with this one, an exciting project, what we call, Jensen's Pond up on the north end off of the Upland Trail. You can see that picture on the right. And what we're looking at doing is renovating, which would be some dredging. Hopefully we can find a good solar aerator to help with keeping algae growth and some of those blooms going on, and then adding a fishing dock and working with the DNR to stock it and really make it a kind of a kid's fishery. We'll need to try to keep Steve off of there, but other than that, you can take your grandkids though.
Put that in the middle.
We'll be
there.
The other project up at Ada Hayden is the parking lot on the north end. Be about 25 years old when we get to replacing this, maybe even a little bit more, about 25. But what we'd like to do is replace the asphalt with concrete, and looking at probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 35, 40 years or plus if we go to concrete. Obviously get a lot of use. So with that, questions for Parks and Recreation?
Thanks, Keith. Questions?
So you have so much going on.
Is somebody trying
Oh.
to talk?
I apologize.
Somebody tried to
Is it Amber? Is that you? Amber?
She was going to text questions to me.
Okay. All right, Tim.
So could you go back to the Ontario Park plan? This is on page 147, and help us think through just sort of the rationale. We're going to put in some improvements, initial improvements, and then we're going to have a park master plan process. So is it possible that the park master plan might make recommendations that would be different than what we're doing here? In other words, would there be some value in holding off on that till we do the master plan?
So we're working on the master plan. All right now. What we did is we just are anticipating what things are potentially going to have to be added to there. We are not going to, it's kind of a placeholder. We're going to wait until the master plan is done, because we don't want to put things in and then the master plan tells us to do something else. But we know that on the north end, we're going to need parking. We're probably going to have a shelter. We're probably going to have a restroom. We're going to have some play equipment. So those, so what we're saying is we're anticipating that those items or amenities will be in the master plan. So we're just trying to give you some idea of this is potentially what we could be adding. Now, once the master plan is complete, these may change a little bit, and their exact location, will be defined in the master plan.
Okay, I apologize. So I misunderstood that. And so timing wise, when will the master plan start? Do we have a consultant already hired for that?
We do not. So I just was talking to purchasing today to get the RFP out. We'll hire a consultant that will come before the council because it'll be over $50,000, I'm sure. But that'll become, and then what we'll do is the idea is to have that master plan done before the end of the fiscal year.
Oh, wow. That'd be great.
So that's what we're shooting for. So and in the meantime, while we're trying to get the consultant, hiring a consultant, we're looking at, we will do some public input as well, and go through that process and start getting some feedback. So when we get the consultant on board, then we can share with them all that feedback and we can start developing the plan.
Okay, that's a great answer. Give us a paragraph. Ames has, particularly with the addition of Ontario Park, which is 50 acres of ground, that now pushes Ames into a whole nother tier in terms of cities. If we look at the number of acres per thousand people. And so there's all these different rankings. And so that's a huge help to us. But I have sort of a philosophical question, and you don't have to answer this tonight, but to get you thinking about this. How do we know if we have too many parks? In particular, if we're going into a period of tighter budgets, is this something that your team has thought about in terms of the utilization of certain parks? And this seems like a huge topic, but we have so many parks in Ames. How many parks?
We have 41.
41 parks. I should know that number. You tell it all the time. But I'm just wondering, at some point, do we release some of those parks that aren't being used, that don't fit into this portfolio? And so when we think about the master park consultant, they're going to be looking at the way in which Ontario could be used. Would there be some value in adding a second component to that? Because they're going to be looking at the portfolio parks in their totality, right?
They will not.
Okay.
They'll be looking at Ontario Park and looking, how do we develop it and how do we meet the needs of the community? What does the community want in this particular park? What's the vision of the community for utilizing this park? So their focus is going to be on this. Now, there may be some overlap where they're looking, if we get some feedback from the public that say, put tennis courts in. We may, say, well, we already have tennis courts at Innis Grove, at Brookside, at McCarthy Lee. We feel that they're underutilized. Don't know that we need to add any additional park or any additional tennis courts. So I think they'll do some cross-checking, with our help in regards to certain amenities. Now, in regards to, so I don't know if that is a desire of the council. I think that's a much larger, longer process. It's a lot more scope to look at each of the parks and see. Now, I will tell you that as a staff, we have had this exact conversation, especially with operations, with tax dollars, tax support, all those types of things. We're already having some of those conversations. But I would also tell you that with some of our parks, Are they as utilized as maybe others? No, that's going to be a given. But just think about when council was considering putting Fitch at O'Neill Park. The people around those parks, it's their park. They love their park. It's close. They walk across the street. They walk down the block. So I think if we're going to do that, I think that's going to be a much longer and broader exercise to try to figure out how do we best utilize our resources. I just met with a group today, and we had the conversation was about in their area they would like a park. They have some land. I haven't even talked to Steve about this yet because I just met with them today. But one of the things that I told them, I said, one of the things that I'm just going to be upfront with you on is we're really going to have to take a look and see how do we best use our resources, because if we do get a 2% cap or a 4% cap on our growth, something's got to give.
Right.
And I think that's going to be a big concern about what do we add, because if we're going to be adding things, then we may have to be cutting things, and that's going to be a tough thing. So it may be a longer than a paragraph.
No, this is good.
But I think
Yeah,
this gives you
let's
something.
focus on we're looking at a CIP. I have questions myself that I wrote down regarding
Well, this is
consult and the use, and I think that probably warrants a greater or bigger discussion essentially.
yeah.
Yes.
So, but it's helpful as we think about Ontario and the impact on our operational budget. It's certainly easier to add than subtract parks. And so, as an example, I live adjacent to Parkview. The city maintains that. Maybe you would say to the neighborhood, you don't have a HOA, but you need to get one and you need to take care of your park, because we can't do what we've done historically. I just think we need to start that conversation with the community. Finally, last topic.
Just your point. I'm not saying it's not a good topic for discussion. I'm just trying to keep us on track.
Of course.
Of the CIP.
Yep.
But I think you raised some really good points
Yep.
that we're going to have to talk about.
Yep, certainly. I appreciate that. Last topic. The city council in our retreat on Saturday expressed a strong support for an indoor rec center. So how do we go about communicating or going from that conversation into next steps? Because that absolutely is a CIP project. How do we do that?
So I also have an RFP on my desk that for a consultant for a rec center. But Steve and I and Pa have talked about this, and this we will need to come back to council and have conversation before that RFP goes out, because there are some differences that we need guidance on.
We talked about that.
Oh, did you? All right. So then I won't.
The philosophical use of it. We
Yep.
think the council was talking about recreations that are similar
To
Yeah.
Tim's point,
Pardon me?
would that be a part of to Tim's point, would that be part of a CIP page, or would that be something that would be funded through a different
The
approach?
funding's already there,
Yeah.
the master plan. We're carrying that forward.
That's
Yeah,
right.
we have
The
$100,000.
more we get information, then I don't like to put it in when we don't have the right numbers of the.
It's carried over from last year.
So the philosophical, which I think we've got that direction now, and actually was pointed out as one of the number one priorities of the council.
Yeah.
So that's good.
So with that, what we do, and I have already had conversation with some of the youth sport groups, with Discover Ames. I've met with Discover Ames a couple of times, met with some of the youth sport clubs. So I think we just need to, if we got that direction, we'll get something put together and share that with you at some point.
Very good. Thank you for your presentation.
Other questions?
Sorry, I didn't have a chance to talk about it.
I said, and this is, you have down solar for the pool, which council's talked about. I guess one question is, how was the $700,000 arrived at? Is it a good solid placeholder, or something that was just put in arbitrarily?
Yeah, no. I worked with Lane from Electric and with Nolan with sustainability, and then they had conversations with I think one of their consultants, and they took a look and said, all right, here's the square footage of the roof. Here's how many solar panels we can put on there. Here's what the cost is. And so I got all that number from them. Yeah, I just didn't pull
Yeah,
that.
that
out
was
of
that was
thin air.
not phrased well because I wasn't trying to. Maybe.
So hopefully that answers your question. Maybe
Well,
gives you a little more
it did, but
confidence.
here's the, when you run the math, the savings divided into the net cost after rebate, it's over a 25-year payback.
Yeah.
We have, I didn't run numbers for the, the plaza, but given the fact that we may be facing budget constraints, the question becomes, is making an investment in something that will take over 25 years to pay back. I know it's going to reduce some of the operating expenses, but I think we're going to have to start asking questions. Does it make sense? I understand that it's consistent with the climate action plan, but I think we're going to have to start really looking at what is the cost and how could that money be used, or what could it do to, carry things forward. And I know I saw the funding was from a GO bond already. But maybe the city manager and our finance director can give advice as how that could be used differently if that was not allocated for the particular project. I just want to bring to attention that I think the same question is going to come up in the fire station number 2 in terms of what the costs are going to be for all those improvements, also. So it's an observation. I'm not saying change anything, but
Yeah.
I'm just thinking, could that money be used some other way to get better benefit for our community? But anyway.
Yeah, well, and with that too is we could do, we do have an RFP that is getting ready to be going out probably sometime this month to hire a consultant for the design and everything of it. So maybe what we can wind up doing is maybe it comes back a little bit different, maybe it comes back worse, but I think maybe it's when we get that information, we bring it before council and we can have that conversation, that discussion.
Or maybe the question to start with is ask a consultant if they get hired before you do anything design wise, give
Yeah.
us, opinion on what it's going to actually cost to install it.
Central costs like we do for fire.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then if it comes back and it's really going to be $1.3 million,
Right. We can do that.
then I think council needs to evaluate, is this where we want to put our money?
That's right. It's one-time money, but it could be used to replace in other things that would raise taxes. So we can find a way to offset those.
So
for that project.
It may still, this just may still happen. I just think that it warrants, looking at it. So.
But you're going to have that struggle, I think, a balance. We talked about the whole climate action plan. Remember, I'm not sure everything else, I'm not sure a lot of these pay off monetarily. You're going to have to weigh that with the reduction in, carbon. Is that a benefit to you? But it'll be tough to justify a lot of these projects based on payback, I think.
If we were in a different legislative climate, I wouldn't even ask the question.
No, I understand.
But given the fact what we're seeing in seeing 2 bills so far, or actually 3, there's going to be 4. If there's any semblance of that coming to fruition, what was observed, what happened at a school district to the west of us may just be the tip of the iceberg of what's going to be happening in terms of things having to be evaluated. And so it's just trying to find areas that we may have to have a robust conversation on. And is this the best use of taxpayer dollars? And can we use it for something else to help
You're right.
deliver services?
It's later discussion for the budget, but I think there are going to be tough decisions that are going to have to be made by cities throughout the country.
Yeah.
They're not, throughout the state. They're not good decisions because
Yeah.
it's not adding, it's subtracting. And it's tough to, again, eliminate a service or a park that's near you to cut costs. So it'll be difficult. All of us are dealing. I've talked to some city managers today and they're really grappling with it. It's tough to come to grips with it because everybody wants to make excellent places for people to live, and that take facilities, and facilities take a cost for operations and construction. And it seems like we're being dialed back now, just to lower property taxes. It's going to affect our quality of life. There's just no doubt about it. So there'll be some tough decisions we'll have to deal with.
Well, you're doing what council's asked you to do, so it's not that just one of us just opening up a point of conversation. That's going to have to be
No,
talked.
no,
All right.
very valid.
Did you want to just mention anything about the cemetery, because it's also on your
Oh,
list before
yeah.
you leave?
So, yeah, so cemetery, we just have one project for $75,000. We already have 3 columbarium, which is shown right there. When we did do some renovations of that area, you can't really see the 3 existing, and in the back to the right of the shelter, but we already did pour this pad. So it's just a matter of getting the 3 additional ones. Of the 3 that we have, 1 is completely full, 2 is close to being full. The 3rd one we've already started selling on. So this is, I think this is 2 or 3 years out, but we'll need to add some. So that's the only thing that we have with the cemetery.
I just want to comment that addition there, that covered pavilion. What an addition to the cemetery, and hats off to staff when we have Veterans Day, Wreaths Across America, other events that go on, Memorial Day. That is so appreciated in terms of having that shelter, and gives a place for people to not only huddle, but you got power there, you've got a focal point, and just thanks for making that
And people have been
improvement. And I
using
know
it
that
for-
there's a lot of people really appreciate that.
Yeah, and people have been using it for celebrations of life and things as well. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
And it
I
was
think it's a good
it was
move.
staff's idea that
What's that?
I said. Joe Newman actually was the one that kind of said, "Hey, how about this?" I was like, "Well, that's a good question," and that's what we wound up with.
Yeah. And it's amazing how the columbarium has really become a very popular, option. So
Yeah.
I could see where you may need to have more than that in the future. So,
Yep.
all right. Very good. Thanks, Keith. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. Have a great night.
Thanks, Keith. Good job.
Now it's time to call the fire department. I mean, to call up the fire department.
That's going to help you, Rich.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Rich Higgins, Ames Fire Chief. Good to be here tonight with you. Thank you for this opportunity. We'll actually be going backwards in the CIP. So we're going to be in pages 35 through 40. And before I get started, I just want to thank, there's a lot of people behind the scenes that are not here tonight. I've asked them not to be here. They don't need to be here. Not behind me. But from our firefighters to our lieutenants, our shift commanders and deputy fire chiefs, they have all been instrumental because we use a team approach, trying to bring our ETP values to life. So when it comes to looking at our apparatus and creating specifications, that's done by a team. The end users are firefighters and lieutenants. When it comes to the fire station number 2, that's our facilities team. So I just want to take a minute to thank them for all their hard work and their input and how instrumental they are. In addition to Nancy and Patty, of course, who help make this all make sense. So up on the screen, that is one of 2 new Ford Lightnings we got last month, thanks to Corey Mellis over in Fleet. We have a Type 2 charger at fire station number 1, so we're able to charge. In fact, my vehicle's out in our parking lot right now charging as well that we have. So we are learning how to use them, and it's equipped with lights and sirens, so we could move this up to a frontline status if need be. But want to take this opportunity just to showcase a little bit of our green initiative in the fire department that we're able to take. All right, moving forward, tonight we're looking at our 5-year, year 26 through 31. Over the next 5 years, we're proposing 4 capital improvement projects, 3 of which you've already seen, the Engine 2, Engine 4, and the SCBAs. The new one is fire station number 2, and that actually spans a couple of years. That's going to be 3 years to be exact. So if we jump forward, as you recall, back in November, we had great voter approval and support. Really appreciate the community coming out and voting how they did. Appreciate council support and helping us get information out to the public. Fire station number 2 relocation project will span 3 fiscal years, this current fiscal year, next year, and then also 28. And I want to take this opportunity as well to thank Iowa State University. The cost that you see up there, that doesn't include land because Iowa State's leasing us land. That would be a totally different number and a different conversation if Iowa State was not involved. They're involved in our CIP, helping pay debt service for our apparatus. So just want to recognize them for their continued support, and we wouldn't be able to do what we're able to do for our community without Iowa State there. So let's dive in. Just a lot of people have asked, where is fire station number 2 going to be located at? So let me give you just kind of a high level view. This is the fire station number 2 fire district, outlined in the yellow dotted line you see there. Up to the top, up by Hilton Coliseum, Iowa State, you can see current fire station number 2. You go over to the west and south just a little bit, and that is where new fire station number 2 is going to be relocated on State Avenue. For perspective, this is the layout from Beacon. You can see on State Avenue, the address there, 601. This is actually 29 acres that we'll have. We'll be on the front side of that. And here's just a little bit of a view of what a site plan, what this could potentially look like for fire station number 2, how we would lay that out. You can see the shared use path on the north side. So just to give a little bit of perspective for fire station number 2. Pretty exciting. We have a sign out there as well. So if you drive past, you can actually see where we're going. And then here's a timeline, a little bit of a Gantt chart showing you where we're at right now. And we're in the schematic design. The further we've already done the schematic design, this is just getting more detailed with that and working on design development with BRW. And 10 months from now, we're hoping to break ground, and then 12 to 14 months to get it complete, and hoping to be, we're not going to, cut a ribbon. We're probably going to tie, untether a hose line. We've seen that before for a grand opening. So we're hoping to do that in December of 27 if everything goes according to plan. So.
Make it real cold that day.
Yes, it'll be chilly, I'm sure. With that, that's all I have for you guys tonight. I didn't want to go back through all the things you've already seen, but I did want to take this opportunity. What you see up there is one of our new rescues. This is Rescue 2. We have 2 of these now. They replaced, as part of our capital improvement plan, they replaced medium duty rescues that went on medical calls. Those vehicles were end of life. They were going to be about $400,000 a piece to replace. Working with our fleet team, we were able to get an F-350 a commercial chassis, put a utility box on it, put lights, stripe it, do everything for a quarter of that price. So you're looking up here, we were able to get that down to $100,000 per apparatus. We had some changes too. We needed the bigger vehicles back then because we had gas-powered hydraulic units for extrication. Now we have battery-powered. We've taken a lot of our special technical rescue equipment that were on those rescues and put them all on a hazmat that we've converted to a spec ops. And that's just our team's process improvement of going through and going, how do we better serve the city? How can we save money with limited funds? And so I really appreciate what our team has done with these rescues and being able to serve the community with these for medical calls. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thanks, Chief. Questions? You talked to council here a while back about procuring fire apparatus using like a pre-bid program that's offered. Is that the number 2 and number 4? Are those costs locked in, or are those subject to inflation, and or the manufacturer deciding they want to charge more money?
Yeah, so we used a corporate purchasing company called Sourcewell that's available to quite a few states across America. Fire engine number 2, which is in year 27, 28, that is actually locked in already. That price that you see there, that's the price for that apparatus. Engine 4, right now our committee meets next week. to finalize the pricing for that one, and then we'll be coming back to you guys with a possible contract. And what we've done in the past, we used to pay a portion like a chassis payment to help reduce the costs. Working with Corey in finance, we've learned that that's not very advantageous of us to do that anymore. So we can lock into a contract, lock the price in now, and then we're still experiencing a 48 to 52 month build time. So we don't pay anything until we take possession of that vehicle. So we can hold on to that money until it's time to purchase it.
So that gives us the ability to be pretty locked in terms of what the costs are going to be then.
Yes, which is really important.
And this is not CIP related, but could you go back to the aerial slide? I just wanted to point out one thing. The new, back one more. Iowa State requested that the city lease this large tract of land. We don't necessarily need all that land, but there's some specific reasons why Dr. Winterstein and her team preferred that it's not being used. It's not going to be farmed. But it is kind of under the watch care, so to speak, or oversight, so to speak, of the fire department, right?
Yes. Yep.
So, I mean, as you can see, there's the College Creek runs there on the north side. But someone asked, why in the world, what are you going to do? It's just, that was just their agreement. If you're going to, they just don't use it. And they just felt that having something there would be beneficial to them from the standpoint of activity, just trying to, watching what's going on around there. So and I think Steve volunteered to mow all that with his hand mower.
Push, not even a self-propelled, probably.
We'll have some
It's a real mower that's only about this wide.
Well, it raises the question, people say, can we use it for anything else? Right now, the lease requires us to use it only for fire service purposes. That doesn't mean we couldn't approach them if we had another use for it.
Yeah.
Something in the back there. In fact, the way the chief is going to design that, let me see, where we'll be able to eventually add
It's a great location.
access back into that property, correct? Don't we leave it on the end?
Yep. So we're just taking a small corner. We are on the far southeast side of this parcel, and so you can see with our driveway, we're making sure that we build it in such a way that if anything wants to happen in the future, that we're set up for that to some degree.
Yep, not sure what it'll be, but we have that option. But we'll need approval from the university if we're going to do
Right.
something other than the fire station operation.
So on that large, the walking trail snakes around, you're all within that southeast corner where the walking trail is, or are you even actually farther east than the walking trail to the west there?
We are as far down. So you can see that little line at the bottom that represents kind of that driveway just south there. That represents the southernmost and the easternmost parts of that parcel. So we are in the far corner. We'll be maybe 2 acres max. It's not going to be much of a footprint there out of the 29. Recognizing that to the north of that shared use path, it's kind of a bluff and then drops off rather quickly.
Right.
Are those lines there for the geothermal?
Will the
No, those were just existing lines for where they had their crops in there.
Okay.
and will it affect the use of that trail at all during construction, or do you know?
We've talked preliminary with Public Works about the shared use path. They might actually redesign it to go through part of the apron possibly and reconnect on the southern side. They're not for sure. Instead of looping all the way around, they might come straight across. There's been some preliminary talks, but nothing concrete of what that path will do.
Just from a connectivity perspective, it's really helpful that that path then crosses state and then it goes on further east. And so I hate to lose the connectivity with the other trail to the east.
For sure. Yeah, I think what Public Works was looking at was to put some type of crosswalk in there so people could safely cross State Avenue. And so that's what they're looking at, possibly how would that integrate into our approach to state.
Great, thanks.
And that's a place that if you're not aware of it, people's running across. It's still 45 miles an hour there too. Could be it.
It's pretty good visibility.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So I'll try to finish it up on the projects and then Corey will take care of you with some information too. So I just want to emphasize the council's continued emphasis on strengthening our neighborhoods. And neighborhoods you've always perceived as both commercial neighborhoods and residential neighborhoods. And you'll see that we are continuing the downtown facade program. You know about that, and the campus town facade program. Those are our commercial neighborhoods that you control. And then we're going to move into our neighborhood improvement grants. As you know, we offer grants to people. We let the neighborhoods come together with us, make recommendations of what they like to do. We try to rate them for you and bring it back to you for allowing them to make physical improvements in the neighborhood. More importantly, we want the neighbors to work together to develop, I think, good relationships with their neighbors.
If that funding doesn't get used, does it roll over? And historically, has it gotten used? What's the use rate of it? It feels like
It's been
maybe
dropped
that's a-
off. I think we have to do a better job of promoting it
yeah.
again.
Okay.
And a lot has to do with a lot of the neighborhoods of associations are not as active too.
Sure.
So we have to get, it doesn't have to be a neighborhood association. It could be blocks,
Right.
just neighbors.
But yeah, I think
So
maybe
getting
people
the
don't know
word out to
about it.
them.
Yeah.
And let them prioritize what they'd like to see. I think we have to promote a little bit more.
Yeah. Sounds good. It feels like the
Reinvigorate.
use of it has not been as good as it could be.
We've kept some of it, but normally it just rolls back into the fund. But if
Okay.
we ever had more requests than we had money budgeted that year, we could certainly pull money back out of the fund for that.
Sure.
And I would like to use some of that other money. We're also going to try to reinvigorate our neighborhood associations. So some of the leftover money each year, maybe we could do for programming that'll help us bolster those neighborhood associations too, in another way.
Sure.
Pa's working on that, so we'll talk to you about that later.
Well,
Okay.
just that if we revitalize though and let them know what is available, it might actually
Yeah.
cause some more people to be interested in using that money for
Yeah.
its intended purpose.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So those are the three programs there. And the last one, City Hall improvements. We try to put in money so we can build up funds to make improvements. The biggest improvements that'll be coming in the future, I think you'll see we have to have a consultant work on doors. Exterior doors seem strange to you. We have historically acceptable wooden doors, but they're not very weather tight. We're going to have, it's time for us to replace those. There's a lot of doors, exterior doors in this building. So we do that. But the bigger cost will be looking at our heat pump systems that are here. That's going to be very expensive. We're not looking at a centralized system, I don't believe. That gives us the opportunity to allow for variability in each office. But that means there's a lot of units that have to be replaced. So we'll need a consultant just to help us through that. And that'll be in the future. The actual capital improvement plan's not there. It's the study of it, right? And then you'll see we've got some leftover general fund money we used, as we always have, and I'll give you a recommendation next week where to spend it. And one of them is going to be it's time to go out and deal with the City Hall courtyard. If you've seen that is totally overgrown, it's time to remove some of those trees, thin it out, make it a nicer facility. So you'll see some money in that regards too. So those are for City Hall capital improvements. All right. Any questions on those? You've seen those before. I think they're good programs. Help strengthen our neighborhoods. And then I need Corey to go over what we talk about is our debt capacity. You've heard about that, and he'll brief you on that particular issue.
Thanks, Steve. As normal, we have a projection of our debt capacity. That's on page 20 of the budget book. That should look pretty familiar to you, but we'll just run through an example using fiscal year 27. So looking at line one, where the red highlighter's at, we're about $7.3 billion of 100% assessed valuation. And the state limits what we can issue in terms of our debt. And that's about $364.5 million. And the city has a policy, one row down, of maintaining 25% of the limit. So that's 91 million, which leaves 273 million of unreserved debt capacity for fiscal year 27. So what we do then to come up with a number is we remove our outstanding debt. So we subtract that. And then we also subtract out $45.5 million worth of debt that we're going to issue in fiscal year 27. And I think that number is quite a bit higher than we have seen in the past. And that is because of two things. One is the fire station. We're issuing about $10.5 million in debt that we would not have issued in the past. So that's a pretty big project for us. And then the other one is the R3C, which is about $22 million. So two big projects make up a huge portion of the debt in a single fiscal year. And so obviously that's increasing the amount of debt that we have outstanding. So when you add what we have outstanding plus our new issuances, we're at about $111 million at the end of the fiscal year. So when we look at what we have, our unreserved debt capacity minus what we have outstanding, we're at about $162 million, which leaves about 60% of our unreserved debt capacity. So that's our self-imposed limit. When we talk about total debt capacity that we could issue, we're about 70%. So that means we have about $253 million of capacity left. So again, unusual year. We usually don't issue this much debt. Obviously the R3C debt is abated, so that doesn't hit property taxes. That's a little bit unusual, but it's the best way for us to get the best rate. Any questions on that slide before we move forward?
One thing I like to point out to you, it kind of confuses me, but I always send you the analysis of our bond rating, and all of us always wanted to be a AAA rated bond, right? When I read those over, it kind of confuses me because there's two reasons we get dinged. We only have a AA plus, which is very good, I might add. Not the top of the line where we want to be, but two of them have to do with, one has to do with the hospital, which I always think is frustrating. The hospital does an excellent job with their finances. And when they issue debt, it's in revenue bonds. Those revenue bonds are pledged against the revenue of the hospital, not the general obligation of the city of Ames and the citizens. Yet in our bond rating, they seem to be concerned about the state or the status of the health systems throughout the country. And they're worried if the hospital would get in financial crisis, would the city step forward and subsidize with property taxes? That's never been the case. And I'm very confident the way they handle their money, that won't be the case, but they ding us on that. But the other one that's kind of surprising, I always see them write about our debt per capita seems to be unusually high for their rating system. And that holds us back. Even though when we go through this, we have a substantial amount of debt capacity left. And we're very conservative because we reserve 25% of what we can actually do. Sure. So it is kind of frustrating to me because we want to be the best. We want to get that AAA rating, but somehow they ding us for those two areas. I want to point out a few other things. We're not asking you to make a decision tonight. Remember, we're now presenting this to the public and you. You'll make your decision on the final wrap-up, which is February 10th, Tuesday, February 10th. You'll make your final decisions, and these projects are here. Let me emphasize also, remember, excuse me, we're dealing with at least 5 new developments for housing. Remember that? I haven't put individual sheets there yet because we have not finalized development agreements with it. I'm not worried because if you remember how we laid it out, the first year, the one that affects the budget, that's going to come out of mostly ARP funds. Mm-hmm. So that'll come out of available balance. So I'm hoping we're going to get those done and we can then amend the CIP later. And we could do that before we print the final budget by July. I just don't think it's going to get done in the next 2 weeks. All right, I'm not saying there's any problem there. It's just Kelly's talking to the finalizing the issues with the developers. We'll have to come back and have the city attorney write the agreements and then come back to you. So those have not been layered into this CIP yet, but we can amend it, I believe, right? It'll cost Nancy a lot of grief. She'll yell at me, but I couldn't get it done now. All right. Any questions you might have?
So the proposed issuance of essentially $45 million of debt this year, right?
Right.
How much of that would be from our debt service levy, and how much of that is from? Is some of that going to come from revenue bonds?
This is only GO bonds, but the way that it works is it's abated by the utility. So 22 million of that will be abated by the resource recovery of the solid waste system. So that's about half. And then the other thing that's unusual is the fire station is not abated. That will hit the property tax rate. And Steve and I and the rest of the staff have been working, on the budget as we move towards our hearings to minimize the impact on property taxes. But it should be noted that only includes about 7.2 million. You saw in Rich's presentation, there was about another 3-ish that was going to be issued in 27, 28. So we're trying to minimize those things. If we did not include those two things, our capacity would be at 77%, almost exactly what it was in the previous year. So,
Unless, yeah, thank you for the explanation.
Yeah, sure.
It's more the if the legislature is going to put a cap
Yeah.
on our debt levy,
Yeah.
to actually have our levy go up this year isn't a bad thing because we will set a new amount. Is that correct or incorrect?
So I haven't totally digested all the bills. They're all 100 pages.
Well, why not?
plus.
There's only
Yeah.
three of them right now, and there's another one
Yeah.
coming.
Unfortunately, got sleep and stuff like that. But I haven't seen anything that caps the debt levy.
Okay, good.
So it's all been operational levies, like the transit levies capped and those other things. So I think if you were to cap a debt service levy, that would have major impacts on our ratings and then what would the rate that we borrow.
Well, and not just for the city of
it
Ames,
would be
it'd be
problematic.
every city in the
Oh, yeah.
state, and it would affect every. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Devastating. You couldn't do anything new, as you could see. You have to borrow money.
Yeah.
Corey, I've been playing around with ChatGPT tonight and comparing Ames in various capacities throughout the evening. And one of them that I did with respect to this discussion is looking at Ames in comparison with peer communities in terms of outstanding geo debt and percentage of statutory debt limit used. And I think there's a lot of value in seeing how Ames compares with its peer cities. Because if you look at this is just looking at projections for just Ames.
Sure.
Would it be difficult? I'm not trying to make more work for you, but from the citizen's perspective in understanding this, would it be difficult to add a page like we do in other areas where we show Ames in comparison to peer communities? Would it be possible to show how we compare with other cities in terms of debt capacity?
Yeah, I have it on the screen.
Oh.
Steve just cut me short, so he wants to
That
get
was
out of
weird,
here.
'cause
So
I was
he wants
looking-
out.
I've been
so-
looking at this.
Yeah, this isn't
Anything
in
else
the
you want,
book.
but
We
if
started.
anything
Yeah,
else you want?
that's right.
We started doing this
Yeah.
a couple of years ago. So that is the
So can that go in here?
sure. Yeah, we could add that as a page.
So, yeah, so thank you. That was a little strange.
Yeah.
Can you edit that
Good
out?
timing.
There you go. Thanks for that.
Yeah. So I think we started doing that a couple years ago as a way to analyze kind of what we look like. And so again, this is just a replication of a slide we did last year with the most updated numbers.
So why don't you explain what?
So
what we're
yep. So you
showing?
got the population. So not everybody. We take these from audits, whatever audits available from the cities. So the cities are on the left side by population. Their fiscal years that we took the information from the audit from. Then it goes to their assessed value. Of course, then it's 5% of their assessed value is the debt limit, and then the debt is their outstanding debt. So the margin is whatever is remaining. So it would be the debt limit minus the debt is the margin. And then that's the percentage of the percentage of the debt that they've utilized right now. So you can see it's a little bit different than the last slide. We're at 30%. The other slide said we were at 70% because that's what we had available. But so we're using about 30% of our margin. You can see Des Moines up around 64. But I would say we would be if we were not doing those two major projects, we would be probably about 70, or we'd be about 22 to 21%. So we'd be about where we were at last year.
Well, don't you? There's a ringer in there, and that's Ankeny. Ankeny is growing so fast. Their taxable base just keeps on growing, so that probably helps them keep their margin down. Is that correct?
Right.
It does. I think if you watch follow the paper, they don't have sales tax. I think they have budget pressures too, and so I think they're very conscientious, just like we are in terms of their budget, but they're experiencing the same thing. So
one surprised me is Iowa City and Council Bluffs.
Yeah, agreed.
the other thing I would say is we have revenue abated debt. They don't have revenue abated debt. Typically, they don't have a solid waste utility that they're operating. They don't have other things like we do where it's abated by the utilities. I haven't done a full analysis, but I would be very surprised if that was the case.
Oh, interesting. Yeah. And then the Council Bluff also gets that's operational. I was thinking about, or they may pay cash.
You're talking about gambling money.
from casinos.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would probably help go towards some projects that they would have borrowed.
Oh, absolutely. Their rec center there, that was paid by the West Fund.
And there isn't there their riverfront
Oh, yeah.
area that's
Yeah.
been paid for by
Yeah.
by
That's
a casino.
huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, we see the same thing, and it's not up there, but Dubuque has
Yeah, that's right.
dog track or casino money, and so their rate is is low relative to their peers in that area. So
Thanks for that.
yeah, good timing.
Anything else you want, Tim, that he can do right away? Pull it right out of the
That's
hat.
my last slide, so we're in trouble if there's something.
I don't have any more to say, do you?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
But if we could add that to the book, that'd be helpful.
Okay, great.
Thanks.
That's a good point. And I think your explanation, seriously, your explanation in terms of what does margin mean and how do you get to that, just a couple of footnotes would be helpful just to show how they arrive at that so people could quickly look at it or we could point it out.
You bet.
Yep.
Percentage you.
All right.
Great.
Anything else?
No, we appreciate your patience. As you can see, I think our departments do a great job of identifying projects. It's not the more you have. Remember, each one of those projects takes a lot of staff time. So we want to make sure they're needed projects and we can accomplish them too, keep on schedule. So a lot of work out there, but a lot of good things will be happening for the city of Ames if we accomplish these.
That's probably just the only question that I thought about when Keith was talking about, master plans, is that I think between planning and Parks and Rec, they have a lot of projects going on. It seems like, obviously so does Public Works, but are they any concerns about their ability to take on additional, master plans as well as,
Yes.
other projects they're trying to manage? I mean, they have a pretty lean.
Yes.
Every department's lean, but
Every-
they have a
every
very
department.
lean staff there.
Yeah. As you know, again, it's going to be hard to add people with caps on you, and it's going to be very difficult. The demand for improvements has not been diminished, right?
Right.
Thirst for improvements continues to grow, and we're being stifled as far as our ability to meet those demands. So, but we'll do it. We've got a dedicated staff. I hope you appreciate them.
Yeah.
They're hardworking staff. They take on a number of projects. Sometimes you get frustrated with us because we don't turn it around as fast as you like. But remember, pay attention. You layer more and more things on, and puts a lot of stress on it. That's why prioritization is very important. Patience is important. We'll get there. We'll do it. We've got a great team out there from top to bottom. They're dedicated to this city and doing great things for our customers and our citizens.
All right. Thank you very much. Entertain motion to adjourn.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
All right. Those there say aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.